Well, good morning, everybody. This is Apostle Crystal Lee. I am excited to be here with you this morning, and we are on time. We are on schedule today. Absolutely. And it's good to be right here with you once again for this 111 days of kinetic prayer. We are absolutely in day 82 of the prayer and day 77 of the fast. Thank you, Elder Vicky, for bringing to my attention that error in the type yesterday that would have sent us in a whole direction. But we are definitely in 82 of the prayer and 77 of the fast. And today we will navigate again topic of victory. Did we not enjoy Prophet Marlies yesterday? I pray that you guys were so blessed by what was shared, so blessed by identifying those different facets of things. You know, it was an amazing time. I'm thankful for what was shared. We're going to go again at the topic of victory, pre and post. And I read this to you yesterday, but I'll read it to you again. In the intricate tapestry of life, we face diverse facets of life. Facets is something very fascinating. You know that fascinating is at the top of facets, you know. Facets are fascinating because what facets deal with is the sides of something, right? And one of the things that it says, especially that the word facet deals with or what it's related to, one of the things that it's related to is a gem and a cut gem, because I think I mentioned it yesterday, the kaleidoscope of things. But a cut gem, if you move it in different directions, you'll see the facets of its brilliance, the facets of its beauty under the light. Okay, and so this is absolutely amazing. Let me close Facebook out. We don't want anything interrupting us. It's absolutely amazing in the way that we see our life, in the way that we see circumstances, in the way that we see everything about what we are doing in the earth. We got to look at it from the point of view of facets. So this is facets point 2.0, right? We're going to look at that again. And these facets are much like ever-changing seasons. When I was thinking about this yesterday, I was just looking at how diverse the seasons are. But if you turn the seasons at the top of the season, sometimes at the end of the season, there are some other things you'll be able to see, you know? So we're going to stand today at this precipice of victory, having weathered the storms on the journey, and there are always victories. Always victories. Yes, there's never defeat. Even when it looks like you've been defeated, there's a victory in there. There's a victory in the fact that you have learned something. And David said it that way, so that the Mashiach, he said, listen, David said, it was good for me that I was afflicted, that I might learn. Even in the affliction, even in the storm, even in the test, there's something in there for us. And the word declares that wisdom crieth in the streets. Wisdom is looking for us. We were talking about wisdom the other day. We're not necessarily having to search for her. She's in the streets making noise, drawing attention to herself. I wanted to talk about this boisterous wisdom because it is absolutely after us. It wants our attention. Wisdom wants your attention. If you're in the room this morning, I want you to go ahead and put in the room, wisdom wants my attention. Because she does. Wisdom wants your attention. And it's so funny because as I'm saying that, I liken wisdom unto a woman, because this is what the Father calls wisdom. It's she. It refers to her as she. And women are like wisdom. You know, in the household, wisdom are also indicative of the Holy Spirit. But they're definitely, wisdom is her. And if you've got a good woman, if you've got a wife, then wisdom is her name. Okay. And so the beauty of this is that I'm seeing that wisdom wants attention. Wisdom always needs the proper attention, the proper care in order for something to flourish. You understand what I'm saying? So when we attend to wisdom, when we are identifying with wisdom, when we are inclining ourselves to wisdom, then wisdom is increasing us. Wisdom is causing us to grow. Wisdom wants my attention. I know you typing from some kind of strange place because it said wisdom wants my nation. Wisdom does want the nations, I promise you, because she knows that she can make the nations flourish. You guys go ahead and like the video this morning as we're moving through here. Wisdom wants our attention. And so uh, after we weathered the storms, um, we embrace the shifts in the changing climates. You know, you go through that stage at the beginning of the spring where it almost seems like you don't want to get spring. You don't want to spring, okay? And it's a little chilly. And we've even had some occasions when it snowed again, okay? Or it got very cold or it was very rainy, you know. But we're like, listen, we trying to get sprung. We're trying to get into the spring. But that weather pattern, that weather system is still identifying with what it needs to do. But it doesn't mean that spring hasn't sprung yet, okay? It just means that now, right now, we're not in a space where we need to wait anymore. And I don't want to jump ahead of myself. But spring is here. So there's still a wisdom in the preparation of things. There's still a wisdom in preparing for the shift. So after we've weathered the storms and we've embraced the shifts in changing climates of our lives, as we embark on this journey, we must understand the essentiality of the reality that victory is not merely an end. It's not a one-off. Victory is not a one-off, but it's a threshold of new beginnings. And Minister Marlise, Prophet Marlise talked about this yesterday, that you've got to prepare for what's next when you have victory. And it's an amazing thing because you can absolutely be challenged by some things. And I think she brought up the Prophet Elijah yesterday. You could be challenged by some things right on the other side of victory. But if you are armed, if you're ready, if you understand that, listen, nothing that I do is in my own strength, and I'm always girded. I'm always wearing the garment of readiness. I'm always wearing the garment of victory. If you are prepared in that manner, then you understand already that you're going to be challenged with some things, you know. So when we look at the prophets and when we look at different people in the scripture, we're not looking at them to look down on them or to say what they missed or anything like that. No, because they were going through their process. And their process is blessing us today. So we understand that there's always another conversation that comes after victory. There is always another conversation. There's a conversation that wants to talk you out of something. I experienced it just this weekend. I absolutely did. I was going back to a place that the Father was calling me back to. And I wanted to go a certain way. I wanted to go a certain way. There's a certain way, certain thing that they know me for and all of that. And the Father said, not this time. Now, I was clean. Don't get me wrong. That wasn't the issue of whether I looked well or whether I looked nice, but I didn't feel like that was what I wanted to do. But understand this. I was stepping into a space of victory. And I've been communicating to you guys, there's some places that we're going to have to go back to because we have left inheritance in those places. So this was one of the things that I had to do. I had to go back, step back into a place. And as I stepped back into that place, it was so funny because there are times that I don't even wear makeup and there are times when I do. For some reason, I just felt the need, like, you know, let me do something to my face. But I'm in the car on my way there because my day has been rushed. Okay. So in the rush, I didn't really have time to do makeup. And I was sitting in the back seat because my granddaughter, when my child came to pick me up, was in the front seat and she was asleep. So I wasn't going to wake her up. So here I am in the back seat. By the time I got there, trying to do a little something in the way of makeup, right? Child, when I tell you, it came out okay and it came out better. I mean, I do this. This is what I do. So of course, what I think is terrible, other people think is wonderful, but I will never do that again. Okay. But it came out all right. It came out all right. I'm not knocking it. But yesterday was a different story. But here's the thing. Here's the point that I want to make. I came back into the environment, not like what they recognized me for, not like what they knew me for, right? I came back into the environment. I had ripped jeans. I had on jeans. I had on the whole jean situation and some boots. And they were losing it over these jean situation and boots. And I was in my feelings about it, right? Because how I felt about myself, the adversary was talking me out. Now, do I know this? Absolutely, I know that my clothes don't make me, I make my clothes. And that's always been the case. And I could absolutely wear anything I want to wear into any space and get away with it. Okay? But that wasn't what the conversation was in my head. I was feeling some kind of way. And my leader had to tell me. He said, you could wear anything you want and it's gonna work. He said, because you ain't never been made by clothes. You've always made the clothes. He said, now that's always been the case, you know. And so it really blessed me to hear people, you know, say these things to me, because I wasn't like making no announcement about it. But I said something. I said, I apologize. I don't wear my jeans. I don't wear my jeans stuff up in here. He said, listen, you good. They were telling me, listen, you are good and you clean. You understand? And you clean and you sharp. And so it's good. But I wasn't feeling that way. There was another conversation. Here I am stepping into a victory, because my spiritual mother called me and she said, listen, this is what it is. She started putting some stuff on the line. She told me what she needed. And here I am coming into the space in a way that I don't normally come. And I'm feeling some kind of way. And they like, this, none of that matter. Well, you here. You here. And everybody's excited that you're here. Everybody's excited to see you. And it was just a, you know, just a loving experience. Not that it was a terrible experience when I was there before, but it was a loving experience. But here I am having this convincing conversation in my ear, because the enemy didn't want me to be able to enjoy this victory that I was stepping into. He didn't want me to be able to enjoy the thing that the Father was calling me into in this moment. So he wanted to talk about what I had on. But now, as I'm talking to myself, as I'm getting dressed, I know I'm clean. It's not an issue of that. But something else is saying to me, girl, now you know, right? But wisdom wants our attention. Listen, so wisdom was saying, that's not the thing. What you're carrying and what you're clothed with, not your physical clothing, is the thing that you're walking into this environment with. And that is of a royal nature. That is of a royal status. You understand what I'm saying? But that enemy wants to have that conversation. He wants to have that conversation. But at that point where you've had that victory, it's not an end. It's the beginning of something new. So even as the arrival of spring heralds transformation in the weather, so our triumph marks every pivotal moment in our grand design. And it really does. Our lives, just like the seasons, have undergone various shifts, sometimes unexpected. There are unexpected things that are happening all the time. I didn't expect to be called back into that space and I have access to my clothing, but that was that day. And the Father had to show me something, because the enemy wanted to talk to me about something, but the Father had to show me something. And we're always pivoting. There's always those pivotal moments. There's always that space and that time where that season is not looking like what we think it should look like. You understand what I'm saying? All of this stuff contributes, though, to the beautiful mosaic of our individual collective journeys. It all is a contribution to what's going on in our lives. It's all a contribution to the victory and a testament to the goodness of Yah. So we're going to continue together on this revelational path to identify and understand the necessity of pre and post journeys. I have a video that I actually want to show you, because this came up in my spirit. I saw this a little while ago, but it's what came up in my spirit yesterday to show you this, because I was like, wow, this, you know, that's a good point to make, Father, that there are spaces that the Father is calling us to, right? And we've got to be focused on the journey, because there's the pre and there's the post, right? A lot of times when people hear the pre and the post, they hear pre-op, you know, for operations, pre-op and post-op. So you guys understand what that looks like, right? You got your pre-op, which deals with what happens before you step into something. You understand? It's the stage that something is established or something is being set up. It's the before. But then you got your post, which is what do you do after? Okay? After you have walked into this thing, after you've received this thing. Now, what is the care? You know? What is the care from there? What is the management from there? And we talked a little bit about that when we were stepping into, when Elder Vicky asked the question, so what do you do if you have to step into some space and you've had surgery and they've given you medications? So it's all of that. It's okay. Now I've had a situation and now I'm stepping into this new thing. I'm stepping into post-op. So now I've got to assess some things and understand my positioning. I've got to assess the things that I need to assess, and I need to understand my positioning, and that's integral. I mean, that's important. It's an imperative, but a lot of times People don't take the time to identify. And this is where that mindless thing comes from. It's a mindlessness because we're so we're so entrenched, we're so indoctrinated by the industrial complexes, no matter which ones they are, that there's fear that's there. We don't even know how to walk out the thing that the Father's desire is towards our lives because there's such a living from the industrial complexes of life. But in this season, we've got to have the mind of Yah. We've got to walk in His mind. We've got to allow His mind to walk out some things in us. And we understand that the Holy Spirit is the mind of Yah. It is the expression of who He is. It's how He operates. We've been given a gift. The Holy Spirit is actually the mechanism of Yah in us to give us His operations and to give us the deep things so that where we're not understanding things, where we're not seeing things clearly, we are able to see the things that we need to see so we can step into the places that we need to step into. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm going to show you guys this video really quickly, and I'm going to be skipping through it, okay? I don't have my disclaimer today, but we are under fair use, able to use this video, okay? And we are going to use this video so that we can learn something because we have a right to do that according to the fair trade, the fair use act, okay? So I'm going to pull this up for you guys really quickly. Let's see what we got. No, that's not what I'm trying to do. So give me a moment because I'm touching the wrong buttons. And we know sometimes when we're touching the wrong buttons, that could cause delays. I am going to get those terabyte hard drives. Good morning, Elder Vicky. Good morning, Pastor Shauna. I am going to get those terabyte hard drives because I've got to clean my computer out. Okay? It has got to be cleaned out because I can't do this slow moving stuff. I'm not used to slow moving devices, so I don't even want to get used to that. Don't even want to get used to it. Okay? All right, let's see if it's going to work. I want to show you guys this. I think it's going to bless you because it needs to take you beyond your current identity of things. It needs to give you some facets. Okay? I want to show you some facets of things. Here we go. Share screen. That's what I want to do. Okay? All right. And I really want to, there we go. All right. Now I'm going to be skipping around as I told you, but let me see if it's showing up on the screen. Here we go. Okay. All right. Let's make this a little bigger. There we go. Can you guys see that? All right. I'm going to be skipping around a little bit, but I want you guys to see this. The loneliest house on earth. I want you to see it because I want you to see what it takes to get to spaces and places and what you have to do in the face of victories and in the face of approaching victories.
There's this thing I've been planning for a little while. I hate when you put a camera like this.
You know what I did not check?
Like a 36-mile round.
I pray that you guys can hear
this mountain.
You let me know if you can hear it, guys, because I did not check and see if when I was sharing the video, if I shared with sound. So let me stop sharing. Let me come back into that because I know there's a delay in YouTube. But what I don't want is for it to be sharing just video. Okay. I want to make sure that audio. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I wanted to make sure that it was being shared completely. All right. Let's do it again. Forgive me, guys. All right. We're going to do it again. All right. All right.
To this cabin that's like perched on the top of this mountain. And I want to bring you with me.
You're not pitching it well.
And then we'll need like ice axes and crampons because we're scaling like in the crack of a glacier.
What? I've never scaled anything. haven't really gone camping besides fucking Nepal.
Disclaimer, please do not attempt this without experience. This is legitimately a dangerous climb and done in the company of highly experienced people. As we landed in Washington, we met up with my friend Alex.
How's it going?
Good. It's good to see you. Oh my God.
Who was also a wilderness first responder and a climate activist who dreamt of doing this summit for a long time. So we decided to bring him along with us.
Tommy only brought short socks. I don't know how are you thinking it would work for these boots?
I don't know what I'm doing.
We're climbing almost a mile into the air. It's a 20-mile bike ride to a 7-mile hike.
Oh,
So
wow.
almost 30 miles.
20-mile bike ride to a
You got
7-mile
I'm a
hike.
YouTube editor.
Great. I think the 4,500 is actually the hike part. I think the bike is another 2,000 feet.
Sweet.
That was bad news, right?
It is very bad news, yeah.
And there was actually one guy that commented on All Trails saying that it was the biggest achievement of his entire life.
Like I was me from the future.
So we got equipped with all the technical gear we needed, picked up our bikes, got some extra clothes for the cold, and drove out to the trailhead
Here we go.
to meet up.
A
No,
couple years ago, I ended up in a motorcycle
this
accident.
morning.
I didn't have health
Lord have
insurance at the
mercy.
time. And now I have a plan that keeps me
Oh my God,
covered
so
for
close.
$9 a month.
All plans cover
With Jake.
Okay, so Jake is the photographer who posted the clip that led us to want to go explore this place. Was going to.
So I'm moving through it.
What have you said?
I think 40 pounds we said, right?
We're gonna need all this stuff. Oh,
You definitely think about what do I actually care about at the top when you.
tall boy.
What do I care about it?
Oh, here we go. This is definitely the most weight
How they
I've
doing
ever
on the
had on my
bike ride?
back biking. I'm glad that it's only going to be for what, 23 miles?
Why don't we go back to like asking strangers to throw a party at their house? That was easier than this.
I'm really okay with that.
Here we go.
let's do this.
There's no chance you could have made this stuff with e-bikes. It is all uphill.
There are moments like this where my meditation practice.
They're going uphill.
Spider webs in the face and like bushwhacking.
Now they
So
already
it's like
go on the hike.
overgrown.
There's a sign that says they need our help to maintain it before the trail disappears, so we can borrow a machete.
I'm with it.
Jesus.
Oh my
So rusty.
bro!
We got another 3,000 feet of elevation gain. Slow and steady at first, but at the end it just goes up.
Wow, I feel like we're in Middle Earth. We're going deep. Wow. Got it?
It's a long way.
Yeah.
And I want you to see the transitions now because we're doing transitions.
As we struggled to find any creeks or streams on the way up the mountain, we had to melt snow to refill our water supply.
Mm-mm. Come on, fast.
Pretty wiped.
Y'all see where the house is?
Holy.
This is the technical section you've been talking about. Maybe quick safety talk before going up. If someone does fall and they die, then there's nothing that we can do about that. But the one thing that would really suck is if someone falls and hurts themselves and someone else is so frantic in their immediate response to that that they also fall and hurt themselves. We're very, very far away from any help. A couple of seconds, a minute is not going to be the thing that like changes, like saves someone's life if they're already set to go. But to keep that from happening, just go at a good pace.
May not be a friendly drop.
Challenges
One step at a time.
and victories.
One step at a time.
You gotta
After
keep
12
going.
hours of hiking, we happened to bump into another hiker named
Did you
Stefan
see the water? I didn't see that the
who
first
had
couple
also
times I
planned
watched
to
this video.
ascend
That
and
water
sleep
coming
in the
down
cabin. So now,
the
with a
mountain.
crew of 5, we had to rush up.
And here they are back in the snow again,
Wow.
That's up there. So close.
closer to the mountains.
Final glacial hike to our mysterious and lovely home. And we put on our crampons.
Final stretch. Come on.
Mm.
This part is so freaking steep. Almost there. I don't know how the hell they built the cabin up here.
How did they build it? That's the question. Like for real. When you deal with this kind of stuff, like how did that
To get
happen?
to the very top, you have to climb this ladder.
You made it, dude.
You're here, man.
I'm here.
That was one of the sketchier things I've ever done. Tommy, you're home. Grab my hand. Yes. Oh!
Tuh? Are y'all looking at this?
In its full glory until we woke up at 5 a.m. for sunrise.
He's going to do what he does, man. I really wanted you guys to see this house on this.
That's how we're gonna get down.
I'm so
Of course.
excited.
Look at the
What should we
beautiful.
do for the rest of the day?
We can play cards and take a nap. I'm done for some games. Yeah.
Little game never hurt anybody.
See,
The dealer
we
picks
found
the top
one.
card on the
There
lower
we
portion
go.
of the
That's
deck
the
and
deal I
faces
want
it
right
face
here.
up.
That's the view. You see that? Wow. Isn't that amazing? Okay, so it just dawned on me too how they got that there. They just flew it in. It was already put together. They flew it in. They figured out a way to fly that in and put that there. But it's just amazing to see that there, not only to see it there, but to realize that somebody had enough courage to get to it. And from what I understand, it might have been some kind of lookout from in a different season. I don't remember the beginning of it, but just identifying with the fact that somebody had enough courage to climb it. Many people would have been like, no, I ain't climbing that. Well, if that's what it takes to get there, if that's what it takes to get to that place, I don't want to go. And a lot of people have this mentality when they deal with victory. They're like, well, if that's what victory looks like, I don't want to do what it takes to get there. And so a lot of times we're opting out of that victorious place because we don't want to go through the process to get to that place of victory. We want the victory to be handed to us without any responsibility on our part to do what we're supposed to be doing because we're looking at the situation from the wrong perspective. We're looking at it from the wrong perspective. And when we look at it from the wrong perspective, we don't have the right outcomes. We just don't have the right outcomes. You understand what I'm saying? So this is an amazing time that we're in, and I'm telling you, we're stepping into a place that we've never stepped into before. But as we're dealing with the post of or the pre of victory, as we're dealing with the pre of victory, there are things that need to be handled. So one of the situations that came to mind was Joshua chapter 8. Okay. Good morning, Prophet Marlise. One of the things that came to mind was Joshua chapter 8. And in Joshua chapter 8, what was given to us was this place where they had to go fight the battle of AI. Well, there was a problem, because here became the problem. Something was happening in the camp that was the pre, we're dealing with pre right now. Something was happening in the camp. Now, this is a post because this is off of other victories. But now, remember what I told you, the victory is not a one-off. It's not an end of a thing. It's the beginning of something else, right? So as we're going into the new beginning of that thing, now this is something simple. It's something easy. It's not something hard, because AI is the easiest nation to fight. But something happens. Let's go to Joshua chapter 8 real quick. Good morning, Prophet Marlise. It's good to have you with us here this morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Absolutely.
I apologize for the lateness.
That's all right. Let's go to Joshua chapter 8. Joshua chapter 8. Let's go there. And we're going to look at this because I think this is really important for us to identify with. And this kind of lends itself back to the idea of what Elder Vicky was talking about yesterday, but it lends itself to so many different things. You can look at your life right now and identify, because you got those if-thens, right? If this, then that. And so that's what it is. It's all cause and response. Everything about life is if this, then that. It's a cause and a response. So we have to identify, first of all, what we want the outcome to be. And when we identify what we want the outcome to be, we know that the Father declares the end from the beginning. So as you're standing in the beginning of that victory, you need to be declaring what you want the end to look like, what you see the end as. And the Father already has given us that, because he said, listen, you're living from the place of victory, not for the place of victory. Once we realize that, we step into things like a lot different. A lot of people are still trying to live for a place of victory and not from it. A lot of people are praying for a place of victory and not from it. And that's a huge dynamic that prevents a lot of people from not only enjoying victories, but stepping into them. And as we said yesterday, the enemy is always looking for an opening. He wants the opportunity to try to steal the enjoyment of that victory from the sons. He wants to try to be able to steal it. Let's look at this. Joshua chapter 8. Now I'm going to show you what the Father says to Joshua from the onset of this situation. Okay? And Yah said unto Yeshua, or Yahushua, which is Joshua's name. Okay? So we understand that the name Yahushua or Yeshua is not an uncommon name. I know a lot of people like to try to take this thing in a whole lot of different directions. Understanding the character of someone is different than knowing their name. Okay, I just wanted to say that. I want to put that plug there. Understanding his character is different than knowing his name. And if you go through the whole dynamic of how to get to that Greek word, we're dealing with the Hebrew word now, but if you go to the Greek word, it's going to say Isuis first, which is the Jesus thing, and then it's going to take you beyond that, Yeshua, okay, which is the same name as Joshua. All right. He said, Joshua, don't be afraid or dismayed. Fear not, neither be thou dismayed. Take all the people of war with thee. Notice who he said take. He said, take all the people of war with you, which means that even when you're dealing with victory, you have to be mindful of who's with you. Oh my God. Be sure that when you're dealing with victory, that you know who's with you. Paul was the master of this. You understand? Paul was the master of being sure of who was with him. And thanks be to Yah that when he got into that pickle, he had Silas with him and not John Mark. You'll understand that if you're well read, okay? Or you could go look at John Mark's name in the scripture. You'll find the whole scenario around what happened with John Mark. He was not a suitable partner for the mission. And Paul said, no, I'm not taking him. I understand he's your cousin. I understand he's your people, but I'm not taking him with me, because the last trip we went on, he wasn't dependable. He wasn't dependable on that trip. Now, yeah, he has the money for the journey. He can finance some things because he actually was a financier. He said, yeah, sure, he could finance some things, but going on the trip itself, that's not for him. That means everybody has their place, right? But when you look at this, Paul says, listen, he can't go. And what the Father says of the people, he said, listen, he said, take the war faring men. Take the people with you that are people of war. He said, and arise and go up to Ai. Now, this is fascinating what he says here. Because the Father, a lot of things that people don't understand about the Father, this is one of them. That he is always using things as an opportunity for teaching. It's always a teachable moment for him when it comes to us. Always a teachable moment. Listen to what he says. He said, arise and go up to Ai. See, I have given into thy hand the king of Ai and his people and his city and his land. Now, why is he one? Okay, we thinking one thing, but you're going to find out what he mean by see. And thou shalt do to Ai and her king as thou didst unto Jericho and her king. Only the spoil thereof and the cattle thereof shall you take for a prey unto yourselves. Lay thee an ambush for the city behind it. So here we go with strategy, right? Because victory requires strategy. Let's look at this. Victory requires the right people, the right people around you. So you're going to need to identify your circle if you're going to have victory in this season. Your circle is going to matter. If you guys haven't liked the video already, go ahead and like the video. Your circle is going to matter for this victory. So this is the pre-op or the pre-victory position. You need to make sure that one, you're not afraid and you're not dismayed because you're getting ready to go into some things to get to some things. But you need to have with you in your circle the people that are qualified, the people that are the right people, the people that have passed the pre-qualification of heaven to be in that space to go with you. He said, now arise, go up to Ai and see. I've given you into thine hand. Okay. So look at this. We know that you're going to need the right people. Okay. We know that you're going to also take the spoils and the cattle. We know that this victory is going to be a victory that is the same kind of victory against Jericho. I'm telling you, this is a teachable moment, so just pay close attention. But he also gives a strategy for how to deal with the city. So he says, listen, lay thee an ambush for the city behind it. This is the strategy. The strategy is not always the same for victories. So just because you won one victory this way doesn't mean you're going to win the next victory that way. We understand this of David. David matured into another way of war. Listen, put in the chat, war or victory takes strategy, and war requires that. War requires that. Victory takes strategy. But war requires wisdom. That's what I want you to write. Victory takes strategy and war requires wisdom. It's not the same every time you step into something. David grew in, he matured into the warfaring man that he was. He was always a warrior, but he was trained a specific way. In the wilderness, he was trained a specific way. And now he's grown into something else because the moment he dealt with that adversary, with that slingshot and that rock, which was the mechanism by which the Father used to destroy this enemy. It means whatever's in your hand and whatever the Father has trained you in, you are capable of killing some of the biggest things, of taking down some of the biggest things. So what you are having in your hand does not detail a limitation. What did Moshe have at the waters? He had a staff or a rod. He said, stretch out your rod. Okay? So it wasn't a limitation, but in his mind. All right? So that's one of the things that the Father's really wanting to deal with is the limitation that happens in the mind. Okay? Because you're not limited by what you possess. The woman with the oil, her sons were going to be taken, right? They were going to be taken for the debt that was owed. And she said, I don't have nothing. The prophet said, oh yeah, you got oil, right? She said, I don't have anything but oil. He said, that's what we're going to use. No problem. She didn't think that was amounting to anything, but it was in her house. And only her mind, the limitations of her mind kept her out of the liberty of being able to pay that debt. That's something for us this morning. Only the limitations of the mind keep you from the liberty or the victory that's needful in that moment. You understand what I'm saying? So let's look at this. It says, and thou shalt do to Ai and her king as thou didst unto Jericho and her king. Only the spoil thereof and the cattle thereof shall you take for a prey unto yourselves. lay thee in ambush for the city behind it. So Yeshua arose and all the people of war to go up against Ai. And Yeshua chose out 30,000 mighty men of valor and sent them away by night. 30,000. And he commanded them, saying, behold, ye shall lie in wait against the city, even behind the city. Go not very far from the city, but be ye already. Be ye already. Now, this verse is powerful to me because it takes us into something that I wanted to share with you guys about this whole dynamic of victory. Because when we're dealing with this victory on this level, we have to understand that we leave this place of waiting. And when we leave the place of, we're no longer waiting for something. We understand that we're expecting, right? We understand that expectation. But we also understand that we have to cultivate what the Father gives us. In other words, we got to step into that space to do what he's given us to do. But this is what he said to me. He said, there's a period of waiting. He said, there's a period of expectation. But then there's a period when you're in the expectation that you get to the countdown. So this takes me kind of back to the weather patterns, right? Because in that weather pattern, we know that spring is about to come, right? So the wisdom of Yah says, listen, I need to begin to prepare my closet, begin to shift my clothing. You know, my garments need to be shifted. Got to start putting away the winter stuff. Okay, it's a little cool outside, so I'm going to keep some sweaters. I'm going to keep a couple of things on tap. But the rest of the stuff I'm putting away. Why? Because I have an expectation that spring is about to come, right? But then you get to that space where you're not just an expectation, you're counting down. Okay? The period that follows victory is not a mere interlude. It's a countdown. Okay? It's a strategic and purposeful progression towards the next phase of our journey. Because remember, it's not a one-off. It's a countdown. And this is necessary for us to be able to realize that countdown. Because that's the place that prepares us, and then we're not stuck. If we understand, first of all, there is a waiting period, but then there's an expectation because the season is actually shifting. So now I'm counting down the days before we get into the actual weather pattern that fits this season. You're not doubting, you're not feeling no kind of way because there seem to be some challenges. And that's what the adversary was trying to face me with, or try to challenge me with a couple of days ago when I stepped into an old space in a new way. I'm telling you, he said this already though. You remember this? He said you're going to step into an old season in a new way. And so what happens is we begin to wrap our minds around that, and we start thinking about things from an outward thing, from an outward appearance. And now it doesn't mean that outward doesn't, it's not a reflection at all, because we know that man looks on the outward appearance, but Yah looks on the heart. But when you're carrying something as amazing as the kingdom of Yah, you could step in a sack. You could step into a space in a sack and all eyes would be on you. Why? Because there's something on you that is beyond the sack, beyond the sackcloth, something on you. You hear what I'm saying? And when you recognize that there's something on you, and you just go in the spirit of what the Father's telling you to go in, and you're not worried about all those other details. You're not worried about that. You're not worried about it. They faced the city of Ai after their initial defeat in the previous attempt. And this strategy involved drawing the people of Ai out by appearing like they're retreating. Can I tell you something? Sometimes the Father gives the appearance of something, and you're concerned about the appearance of it, right? But he's using the appearance because it's a part of the strategy. It's a part of the strategy. This strategy that he showed Joshua drew the people out of the city by appearing to retreat, and it left the city vulnerable because the people that were in the city began to go after the children of Israel. while part of the Israelite army hid in ambush, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. Now, I'm dealing with many facets of things here. You understand what I'm saying? So while the people of Ai pursued the seemingly retreating Israel, because you understand, they appeared to be retreating. So see, sometimes people don't understand when you get quiet. You appear to be in a space of retreat. No, you're just drawing things out. You're drawing it out. Because even in your appearance of retreat, your adversary is miscalculating you. The adversary that's in that space is miscalculating you. You understand? The soldiers of Ai found themselves caught between the Israelites and the city in flames, resulting in their defeat. All because the people of Yah understood the orders that were given. And sometimes your orders are not audible. There are things you just can't get around, like me wearing, my ripped jeans and my jacket and my stuff the other day. And I was feeling some kind of way. I'm like, oh my God. Father said, no, we're not tripping on that kind of stuff. Not in this season. We don't care about that. That's not the kind of stuff we care about. You know this. But there was another conversation, right? But what the Father was doing was setting something up a certain way. He wants it to be viewed a certain way. He wants it to be seen a certain way. Why? Because the environment I'm going into is more of a youthful environment anyway. Right? It's more of a youthful environment. It says this. So Yeshua rose and all the people of war to go up against Ai. And Yeshua chose out 30,000 men of valor, sent them away by night. And he commanded them, saying, behold, ye shall lie in wait against the city, behind the city. Go not very far from the city, but be ye ready, all ready. All of y'all be ready. And I, this is what Yeshua is saying, and I and all the people that are with me will approach unto the city. I and all the people with me will approach unto the city. And it shall come to pass, here we go, it shall come to pass, but the coming to pass has to be, it's a response to orders that are given. It doesn't come to pass in this way, except the fact that we follow the order that's given. This is how we get to the victory. The victory comes to pass because we understand the strategy and we understand what we're supposed to be doing. It shall come to pass when they come out against us as at the first, then we will flee from before them. Now understand, they lost the first battle against Ai. And the reason that they lost the first battle, the reason that they were not able to receive the victory from this small situation was because somebody that was with them. Remember I told you one of those things is identifying who's with you. Yeah, when you identify who's with you, that's gold right there. I told you the treasure is in the earthen vessel. It's in the earthen vessel. You understand? When you think about Gideon did something that was a little similar. He's taken the men down to the water, and the Father gave him a specific measuring. And he took them down to the water, and then he chose out of all of those that he took to the water, those that were drinking a certain way. And he sent the rest of them back home. Y'all gone back home. He wound up with 300. He wound up with 300 men. He said it's not what you're coming to the battle with, it's who you're coming to the battle with. It's not what you're coming to the battle with, but it's who you're coming to the battle with. It's what's in your hand when you get there. It's what's in your hand. You understand what I'm saying? Let's keep reading. Look at this. It says here, then, okay, he's giving the whole play-by-play. This is Yeshua talking. And I love this because as I'm thinking about what Yeshua did here or Joshua did here, it's the same thing that the master did. I want you to see this, the facets of it, because this is how we have to read scripture. We have to read it not from some view of, oh, this is some literary work. No, We need to read this from a biblical worldview. We need to identify what's going on in this time, and we need to also see it from a very prophetic perspective, because these things we're supposed to be learning from. These are the things we're supposed to be gathering our intel from for every area of life. These things are valuable across the board. But people are reading them as Bible stories and reading them as motivational speeches. So then we get in the space where we say, like, and when you get there, you're going to overcome your enemy. And when you overcome your enemy, then you're going to take the city. But guess what? Before you do any of that, it's some things that are required. It's some things that are required. And if you don't do the required thing, then you're going to get to the city and you're going to look like a fool. You understand? Because you're not going to be prepared for that level of victory. You're not going to be prepared for victory. You're only going to face defeat. Prophet Marlise, you want to share something? I really low-key need to get me some water while I'm playing.
I am, yes, Lord. You said a couple of things here that are so true. You said it's not what you come to the battle with, but who. You have to know who's fighting with you. Because I just didn't know who David was. I mean, he knew of David, but he didn't know who was fighting next to him in all those battles and what the intent and strategy was that David had. Even when it came down for him to fight, when he said he wanted to fight um,
Goliath.
his people, no, his people.
Oh.
David said, "No, I can't fight. Can't fight my own." You know what I'm saying? But the king didn't know who he had with him, and so, but God gave him a way of gave David a way of escape. But you have to know who is with you, not what you're bringing, because you can use any weapon to defeat someone. Because you will know at the time. Let me tell you something. Because some weapons, you say, I'm not familiar with that one. I'm not familiar with this. I'm gonna tell you, in a time of need, you'll be able to pick up that thing, that weapon, and be able to execute what's needed to be done if you are a skilled individual. Regardless, I may not um I may not have made the garments, right, that I wear. But trust me, get me in a place where I can make something. Money was the thing to buy, but give me a sewing machine or a needle and thread. Trust me, my needle and thread game is great, but I can knit. Put it in my hand. I'll knit. Trust me, I'll learn what to do.
Yeah.
You know,
Some things are just that too. That
you just pick it up.
It's an anointing to do something that you've never done before, and that's
Never
a
done
part of
before.
it. Yeah.
You know, but the thing is, true enough, that confidence. Hold up, give me this. If I never swung a sword, trust me, if I pick it up and it's too heavy and there's alternates there, I'm gonna go through them to find the one that's light enough for me to swing. And trust me, I'm gonna use it to cut whatever needed to be cut.
Absolutely.
So you have to. So when you're saying needing to know who is there, because you need to make sure that when you're in battle, you don't have someone that will leave your back open.
You
You
don't want to
gotta
be
have
in two battles at one time.
Exactly, because sometimes a person just don't know to watch your back. Some people say, "Oh yeah, I got you. I'm gonna protect you," but they'll do it based on a preference, based on a convenience, based on someone else's ability.
Oh my.
You got to understand that in war, especially with David, some of them, he knew that they were too faint. No, y'all stay back, because he need whoever it was maximum optimization. And the same when you talk about Jericho, the strategy. And when you talked about how they came and seized the city after the appearance of a retreat. It made me think about how a watchman, and I saw a castle with a watchman on a tower, and this watchman, as it would turn his back in one direction, the the people who were coming to take over encroach and move closer in the because usually they had some type of covering. You know, it's always a covering, whether it be forest, but in this particular vision, I see the forest and they're slowly moving. They got their armor, they got the sword, and those things are kept up. So they had to make sure they dulled it out so the reflection wouldn't show through the trees. These are strategies. And don't move, don't keep moving when he turned his face toward us. Make sure when he looks the other way, make sure that that we move then. And so
Right.
when they were retreating, his attention now fully is on what was going on in the front.
Yeah.
He forget there's a back. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of us forget there is a back entry. So while we're dealing with the hype and the commotion and even the celebration of victory, there is a back door. There's a back entry, and we have to keep all of those covered in the spirit realm. But in the physical realm, you're going to need someone. That's why Apostle said, it's not what, it's who. Because you can infiltrate a castle without no weapon and seize it.
All you need is strategy.
It's
But
strategy
when you said
and
that one,
implementation of wisdom.
when you said that one thing about the moving closer, what I love about David and his mighty men in particular, and it's probably indicative of Yeshua and the truth, because they didn't have armor. They weren't that was their advantage, though, right? Their advantage was that they were not equipped like all of the other nations. So how they moved, their strategic movement was a lot different than anybody else, because they had on, clothes that resembled the earth. I'm sure they could blend into things. They could hide in spaces because they didn't have that reflection of things going on, right? So their movement was different. And it's like, I keep going back to this thing, I didn't go in with my shiny armor on. You understand? I went in with my earth clothes on, my regular clothes. I didn't go in with my badges and you understand what I'm saying? I went in dressed down and still wasn't pegged as a commoner. You understand what I'm saying? I went in dressed down and still was sought out by people that didn't even know me. But I didn't go in with my shiny armor on. You understand? And I want to go back to that thing that we were talking about, because here's the thing. It's something that you mentioned yesterday, and I wanted to go back to that because you just brought it back up again today. What was the thing that you just brought back up again today about this battle? I had to write it down. You said something not too long ago. I want to go back to that. The David thing. Well, here's the thing with David. I was sharing this with somebody yesterday. I believe it was one of my apostolic brothers. I was sharing this with him yesterday. The Father will allow us to see a thing a certain way or to view a thing a certain way. And I'm going to share a mercy, a place of mercy that many of us have. Many of us have this mercy, okay? When we could actually do the thing differently. Now, understand this. People love to harp on, oh, David wasn't going to touch the anointed. They love to talk about that. But what they don't understand is that in that passage, Prophet Marlise, he was actually going to go to war against Saul, because there comes a time when you say, you know what, I'm not running no more. We saw that throughout the history of him and the mighty men. There were times that they recognized, okay, this is an enemy. I'm not running no more. I'm going to face this thing now. And David could have fought and would have fought in that battle. It wasn't David that was like, no, I don't want to fight. Philistine says, send that Negro out of here, because we don't know that if we get in the battle, if he's going to turn coat on us, because he's loyal. But his relationships, the thing about David is that he is very aware of his relationships and he's very faithful in his relationships. At this point, he doesn't have a relationship with Saul, but he is choosing not to kill. He was choosing before not to take him out, to make a point, not because he couldn't do it, not because it would be against some law, because understand, according to scripture, the anointing was not even on him anymore. We know this because David was sent into the palace to deal with his demons.
Well, see, David was talking to refer to Saul as one of God's chosen, but it's about, I think some of us say anointed, but David
did.
also understood that that only God appoints in those highest places.
That's right.
So he knew that.
And
So
he
that was
did.
one of those things, even down to when he went into Saul's camp to cut a piece of Saul's garment.
Yes. He got him twice that way. He got him twice that way. And that was just to make a point that if I wanted to do this,
I
he
could.
wanted to understand this. He wanted to appeal to the heart of Saul
Uh
because
huh.
they did have a relationship in a former season. But just like he was in that space in one season, and then he started throwing them javelins at him, and okay, now I don't know what's going on with him, but I'm coming back tomorrow to play for him. You
You
understand?
know, that's just like, we have people underestimate or they forget who you are.
Estimate. Mm-hmm.
They underestimate or they forget who you are. And so a lot of times, we have people in our lives that become Saul. And it doesn't have to be hierarchy. It could be friendships, certain friendships, and they forget who you are. And they don't think that you would go against them in a sense, or you could out to
Outwit them.
overtake them. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
let me say
That
that,
you will
or
go to
that you
war.
won't walk away, or you won't leave the relationship or the friendship or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You won't go there. So they get common in their actions, because sometimes they not even think of you as common. They get common in their actions, in their way, and in their preference. That ends up being something that you experience, right? They don't see it in such. And so what happens is every blue moon you have to show, listen, I'm not the
Yeah.
dummy that you think I am.
I'm not the fool you pegged me
I'm
for.
not the
Okay.
fool you think I am.
Mm-mm.
I'm not, you and I have a relationship. So the grace in this relationship can be taken.
Period. But see, this is what the scripture talks about. It talks about when you go into the city. He said, first of all, don't take script nor purse, right? He said, but when you go into the city, he said, I want you to identify the house that's worthy of you.
Yep.
Hello?
Yep.
Identify the house that's worthy of you. And how you're going to identify the things that's worthy of you is by how they receive you.
Yep.
These
And
are
then
the
how they
things that
living. Hold on. And then how they're living. See, you got how they receive you and then how they're living. Because
Go
some
ahead
people
and
ain't
expound
living.
on that point. Go ahead and
Because some
expound on
people,
that point, how they're living.
how they're living. Because if they're not living in the same manner you live, if their spiritual is not in the manner it should be, if the environment is not conducive for what you need, these things you have to consider. Because the heart and the nature people will say, oh, yes, come. But then it may not be the right environment. It may not be the right scenario. So you have to weigh who would be the right one for the right time. And sometimes even the appearance of a place may look right, but then the heart of those that are in it may not be. So you have to make sure that where you go is right for you. The way scriptures say it's more than just, oh, if they're going to receive you and that's it. Because you got people who receive you just to make sure that they look well. they look good. But they know. They don't actually mean it. They know.
So now the difference that the environments that you're looking at is what that makes me think of is when you sit at meet with the king, be mindful of who you're sitting at the table with. And that's one
That's it.
scenario. That's one scenario. But see, that
Yeah.
also deals with, remember, I always say this, that when you are discerning, you're discerning yourself first. So because you're
Mhm.
discerning yourself first, then when you step into specific environments, then you're identifying where you're stepping into. You understand what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So if you're a greedy person, then you're okay with things just because of appearances or what it looks like. But if you are a temperate person, then you're not looking to be in this space where you're just consuming anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go back to this thought that if they will receive you, right? This is what the
Mhm.
master told them, because there are certain environments that you have to be received into in order for the thing to change.
True.
Okay. There are certain environments that you have to be received into. Jairus's house. Okay. And when we look at some of the things that happen in the scripture, we look at whole families being delivered, whole families coming into the realization of the good message. Okay. Because he had to come into the house. Because he had to connect. The connection had to be made. He was that person that they needed for their victory. So this thing is two-sided. Everything is not about what's conducive for us, because some things are just not conducive. Also, the
Right.
Father will send us into environments just to expose the environment. So there are a
Mhm.
lot of facets here. There are a lot of facets here. But I want to go back to that one space, because David could have and would have in this season of his life said, you know what? Rightfully, in order for me to take the throne, I'm supposed to kill all of y'all. That's how it works. That's
Mhm.
how the succession worked. If somebody was given the kingdom, then that meant everything else had to die. Anything that would have any right to the throne had to die. So I'm looking at it from a biblical worldview. I'm looking at it from what that time was. But he said, I'm not going to, because I had a relationship with you, and I would much rather try to mend the relationship. If you remember the conversation that he had with Saul, he was like, look, Father, I got this piece of garment right here. I could have killed you. You know,
Mhm.
I could have done this, but I did not. Like, why are you chasing me? I'm not trying to harm you. But
Mhm.
at that point where he had joined forces with the Philistines, that was for his protection. I'm not getting ready to fight against what's protecting me from the enemy. Because this thing right now, remember when we talk about allies, this is a serious matter. When the Father switches the gears and your enemies become your allies,
Yeah.
that's a real thing. They had become the ally of David because David was pretty much dominating in this sector, okay? So now he would have fought Saul at that point. It was the Philistines that said, no, we ain't taking him with us. Send him on the way from here. Send him out of here, because we don't trust that when we get to battle, that he's not going to turncoat. David wasn't a turncoat. If he was going to go in, he was going to go in all the way. Understand, that was just the heart of David. That was not
That's
a
it.
God thing per se. Okay,
That's it.
we have that space a lot of times. That heart where we just want to keep, trying to prove a point and make a point. It's a whole lot in that, but we'll catch up with it tomorrow when we go through part 3 of this, because it's a whole lot of things I want to share with you guys in the way of this pre and post victory and the facets. So we love you. We'll see you tomorrow. The body's not a me thing. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Shalom, shalom.